Vlad, but it's more of a talk. Yeah, so yeah. Okay,
Okay.
started the recording. Yeah.
Uh,
So okay, so once again, I'd like to welcome you to another session of the IoT 101 series. You know me, I'm Collins Nigoti, your regular here, and today we are honored to have Vladislav Yordanov. Yeah, funny enough, his name reminds me of Michael Jordan, so should we call him Jordanov? Yeah, so we
yeah,
have
it
him here.
sounds a bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I met Vlad on LinkedIn, and we started talking, and I saw it wise to invite him to one of our session, and after a while he finally accepted. Okay, he had not rejected, but he needed some time to think, and yeah, so we have our session here today, and yeah, so it's nice to have you here, Vlad, and yeah, so you can take over by introducing yourself, and yeah, and we can continue.
Okay, so first of all, you can interrupt in any time and ask any questions, kind of what I'm hoping for. I don't actually have like a lot of technical materials to show you specific things because, to be honest, you can look up whatever information you want. I doubt I can provide you with anything you couldn't find in a couple of seconds in the internet. So that's not what I want to leave you with during this session. More like I want to share some things that I myself have learned and perhaps make a nice discussion with you all, not necessarily teaching you something, but teaching each other things, maybe. Um, from what I understand, most of you are doing something that has to do with embedded or robotics. At least the people that shared some information. And I myself come from a different background. I theoretically should be a communications engineer by trade. That's what I majored. As a matter of fact, twice for some reason. I do have two master degrees, so I spend a lot of time in academia, I would say. I actually tried to do a PhD, but failed in quite a spectacular way, I would say. So my perspective is a bit different than yours, I suppose. I look at IoT more of a network engineer kind of way than an embedded and robotics engineer. So I wouldn't say that's what's important for me, rather more like what's more interesting is more of what I know, the network aspect, rather than the embedded one as far as actuators, robotics, etc. It's just what I know more about. So I hope that will still be interesting to you. Maybe it will be even more interesting because you know less about it. But yeah, I thought that that is something that should be mentioned. Um, any questions so far?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
So the way that you've said that you know like the IoT side with IoT with the networking because it's more of networking that, but you don't know the embedded because it's the engineering. So personally, I do both. I do both concurrently because I like doing embedded and I like to make sure that they are able to be connected to the internet. So in the industry, how is the boundary between embedded and IoT? Can you like do both, or you have to major in one? What
It's
is the
actually
boundary
a
of?
very good question that I kind of was thinking about in the past weeks. It's just a coincidence, I suppose, not necessarily because of your podcast, but certain things in my daily life and work. And what I see in a way that there is a divide. I work in a company and they are embedded engineers, and it is an IoT company. We literally make devices specifically for a small part of the IoT field. And what I kind of noticed is that the embedded engineers that write the firmware, for example, they very much lack certain understanding in the networking part. And vice versa, people that know more about networks don't understand that much about the embedded aspects and the hardware in a way. So I'm not sure if this is a good thing, to be honest, because yeah, it's understandable. Engineering is hard, and you need to specialize narrowly simply because it takes a lot of time to learn and do things. And if you take too many and you're too widespread, it's likely to become someone like me, to be honest. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm not really that good at any single one of them. So
Shit.
yeah, and I would still like to leave you with the message that do specialize in what's your passion, whether it's embedded or networking, but kind of make sure you have the sufficient high level of the basis of the other one. So if you go into embedded, learn about networks. Don't just ignore them in a way because they are part of the whole thing. It's like connectivity. It's not just the embedded, but also the connectivity. You need to kind of be able to at least know what's out there and make the connection, because your design as an embedded engineer won't be good if you don't have sufficient understanding of the networking part and vice versa. So yeah, that's what I would say. Did I manage to answer your question?
Yeah. You answered it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually no right answer. It's just this is just how I see it, based on what I've seen. Your experience could be different, but if I had to choose, that's what I would do, to be honest.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. You can continue.
Okay. So let me see. Lessons learned. Well, first of all, uh, don't slack off. Study hard. It's like I know that's like implied, but engineering is hard. It's not supposed to be easy, and it will require a lot of sacrifice. So you have to give up on a lot of things like social life, fun, etc. And if at some point you start to doubt yourself, like, why am I working so hard? Other people have free time to do those things, etc. I know it sounds petty, but it will happen in time because it doesn't get easier. Never feel sorry for yourself, like look at someone and it's like, oh, work hard and know why you're doing it, and don't doubt yourself. You need to spend the time. If you're not willing to do that, might as well give up now. Engineering is not easy. It's not gonna get easier. So yeah, that's one thing I would keep in mind at all times. I know it's implied, but after 20 years, it's still valid. ChatGPT or not, any help you get is nice, but that doesn't mean it will magically become easy. It's just gonna increase your capabilities in a way. So yeah, work hard. I mean, that's something the earlier you learn that, the better in a way. So yeah, that's one thing I would say. Another would be don't only look at the engineering aspect. In the end, how much you will progress in a field will be also depend a lot on the social aspects. I know I just said that you should focus on studying, but eventually you're gonna end up as being a part, hopefully, from a very large team in a big company, etc. So knowing how to navigate is also important. There are technical and engineering tools and skills that you need to develop, and I still believe to this day that they should be the most important thing. But experience had taught me that in a lot of companies they're not. So you need to have the soft skills in order to be allowed in a way to develop the engineering ones, because people will perceive you as a person, and how much you will learn from them would depend on, in a way, how they like you, not necessarily what technical skills you have. Does this make sense? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
uh, to put it simply, is just try to be nice to people and they will respond in kind. And if they don't, then you don't want to be there anyway. So, hey, it's okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
the way, when you've said about working in teams and like knowing how to deal with people, I got like a question of how like in the engineering or in the IoT field, how like the workflow is like. I have a clue of how in the software engineering part in side how things work, because that's the majority of the tech community. So I've interacted with a number of software engineers, but in the IoT, embedded systems, robotics, normally, maybe in places you have worked, or maybe as you share about that, maybe you can share maybe a bit of your work experience, maybe like the places you worked, and yeah, and how is the workflow is from the idea to like how are the teams like? I don't know if you get my question. Yeah.
yeah, I understand. I mean, actually, it's very different depending on the type of company. I've worked in large telecoms. I've also worked in several startups. I worked in academia. I worked in small but established companies. It's like it's very, very different. Maybe I can just give you examples so you know what to expect. And yeah, in the large companies, in the telecom sector at least, I'm assuming it's similar in pretty much any other company. Everything there is structured, it's very much predefined, and you are very much restrained in a way that uh, ideas are not necessarily taken as a good thing. That's what I don't like, and depending on your character, that might not work for you. It didn't work for me. Um, they're not like you're given a problem and you need to solve it, more like you're given these tasks and you need to complete them. They might not necessarily lead to a benefit for the company or be done in an efficient way, etc. You need to do this, period. I was not okay with that, and it didn't work so well for me. That's why I left one place. The other they just kicked me out, I guess, because I kind of wasn't doing what they wanted to in the way they wanted to, and I had my own way because I considered it to be, let's say, more efficient. And the fact they couldn't give me a good reason that it wasn't didn't sit well with me. So yeah, that's about large companies. If you like that um, type of work process, that's okay. This is the place for you. I'm just saying it wasn't the way I do things, and I believe things should be done. Um, if you work in a startup, things they are very different. There, it's more like uh, we have this issue, find a way to solve it. People don't, or at least shouldn't particularly care how you do it, and they expect you to come up with a way. So they give you more freedom, but then again, there's more responsibility. And also, you need to solve this in a way that works for the client. And there are actually real negative consequences if you don't. So you have to be responsible in a way. You're not expected to be handed orders or specifically be taught how to do things that much. And in a big company, if you don't do your job well, it doesn't really matter that much about anyone but you. Maybe you get fired or they cut your pay, whatever. Company, it will probably not be affected that much. In a startup, if you're not responsible, actually thinking about solving the problem, improving things, company could be affected. So you need to be cognizant of that. And again, if this is not the environment you want to be in, then maybe just don't go to a startup. And um, that other type of company I worked on was a smaller company, but an established one. There it was kind of like in the middle. Um, there are certain things you need to do, and you know exactly what to do. You have some leeway, but not too much. So it's kind of a nice balance. You're given some freedom, but at the same time, there's a bit of security. And yeah, you more or less know what has to be done all, at all times. Academia, there, it's more like it's pretty fun, to be honest, as long as you can cut it technically. Because you actually have to be very smart there, from what I understand. I wasn't. It's just the way it is. My math was simply not up to the level it needed to be, so I couldn't cut it. But it's very fun, it's very interesting, it's very difficult. The programs you work in, they do really uh, involve a lot of cutting edge stuff. And it's awesome because you have, at least in my experience, very good mentorship. So you learn a ton, and the people are very good at what they do, and they teach you all kinds of things. It's like, it's awesome. To be honest, every minute I spent in academia, in the university, or later when I worked as a researcher, I loved it. No matter the fact that it was too difficult to me and I wasn't on the level and I couldn't cut it, it was still incredibly fun and very interesting to me, and I don't regret spending any time there. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Anything else you wanna ask specifically, or
Not really, not really. Unless anyone else, if you have a question, it's an open mic session, so anyone who has a question, you can unmute and say. So it doesn't have to be me asking the question.
yeah,
So
sure, sure. I
yeah,
mean, just it will be better if you ask, to be honest, if you eh, even if you think that I'm wrong about something, you can just stay here now and we can discuss things and share perspectives. There's no right answer. It's just some info I'm giving you, but that's what it boils down to me as far as working in a company, in a team, etc. It's like more about the structure of work and the way solving problems is done than the actual engineering skills. Because you meet good engineers, I mean, there's likely to be good engineers in any company, and there's likely to be shitty engineers in some companies. That's just fact of life. The people are better than other people in some ways. It's not everybody's the same, but the approach is more or less similar. So if you go to one big company and you go to another big company, the approaches are similar. But if you go to a startup, that's nothing similar to what the big company does. It's just not. They work in different ways. They have different resources, so different things constrain them. So they have to come up with different ways to solve problems. So yeah.
I guess, yeah, you have answered my question. Yeah, you can continue with your points. Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. What else? What else might be interesting? I didn't actually start like most of you, I guess, because you're quite young, and what you call IoT didn't exist back then, as you can guess. It's like it. I just started with some electronics, and then I went to telecommunications, and I kind of went to what is called IoT now, but back in the day, it was called sensor networks at some point. Before, it was called something else. And in a way, it is just fancy naming. It's just a bunch of communication protocols and signaling interfaces, etc. And they just change a little bit over time, but the principles are the same, to be honest. So it's why if you think I can make the relation to networks, because this is my field, but when we moved from the first generation networks to the second, to the third, to the fourth, now we have the fifth, 5G, etc. They kind of use the basic principles. You just improve on what's already there in a way. You just crank up the modulation, or you add more power or more antennas, or you do some fancy beamforming, etc. But the principles remain the same. So IoT is just an aspect of communication, networking, and embedded devices that has been specifically designed for a certain use case. So try to look at it with a broader perspective, because in my opinion, things will become more and more interconnected as time goes by. So as IoT develops and AI develops, etc., they will become like more of a one thing than two separate fields, let's say. Now everything is about AI because it's trendy and they're pouring money into it. IoT is also something that will be connected with it in the future, and then they might not necessarily be two separate things. Like you could have AI running IoT networks and ingesting data in real time and making decisions in real time, etc. So there's like, is this an AI network or is it an IoT network? With the question. So um, yeah, yeah, it's like things will move fast now that people are pouring money into it more and more. And I think you have a lot of opportunities in the future, because it's a relatively narrow field when you think about it. But my view is that everybody is talking about AI and how it's going to change the world, etc. Yes and no at the same time, because AI is just some kind of algorithm that is ingesting data and it's making some kind of manipulation to it, some decision, and then it's outputting something or adjusting something, whether it's showing you data or uh, doing something with an actuator somewhere, etc., to change the certain conditions, whatever. But right now, it's just human-generated data. For example, large language models, they basically ingest data that humans ingest in a similar way to humans, right? To put it simply, they read stuff, right? And yeah, okay. But technically, I think we are at the border of what we can train them with, because they kind of shoot through all the data we have at our disposal in the web, let's say like web pages, documents, whatever. And IoT is going to be a technology that will, in the coming 10, maybe 20 years, generate so much more data than what we have as a human generated content now, that is going to be crazy how much these AI engines would be able to process. So I think it's very relevant in a way that IoT is going to be the source of all the data that that AI is going to use to make decisions on, and those systems will require a lot of improvement too. So we will see the field, in my opinion, grow a lot more once big players realize that, okay, we have those awesome AI agents or engines or models or whatever, and we kind of fed them all the data we already have. How can we get them even more data? Well, let's move from human generated data to machine generated data, and that's kind of that IoT is machine to machine communications. And we haven't taken that into account yet as a possible source of training data. We just haven't come that far, and that will soon be the case, and things will be interesting then. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on the subject,
So,
and
so you're
networks will
saying
develop more.
in the future, it's more, it's going to be shift. It's going to shift from Internet of Things to like Internet of AI, like one AI to
Yeah, kind
another,
of.
like
That's
changing
a
data and
very good way to put it. Yeah, it's like why just use that human-made data, or maybe not human-made, but it's like in a format that is meant for humans. Just why can't we just take every single thing that can be observed and measured? It's basically what IoT is. You just measure certain parameters and you collect that data and you analyze it and you act upon it. And we will be like, as long as we can measure it and quantify it, that's useful data. So how can we measure and quantify more and more things to feed into the AI, because it has that greater capability to process data compared to a human being. So we will need to find a way to better generate more data for it. And that's all IoT is,
yeah.
in my opinion. Yeah.
And what's your thought on embedded AI, like the
Uh,
yeah,
we should start, I think we're late. I think we're too late working on it in a way that we should have started thinking about it more and earlier, because we simply won't be able to use that model that we're using now. Like I said, everything is similar. And what was it before with networks? They were centralized heavily. Then they started to become more decentralized with blockchains, etc. And now the web 3.0 that is going to replace the current internet is moving from centralized, like big Google and Amazon servers, to decentralized, which is basically what blockchain is, because it's required. You can't have that much centralized compute, so inevitably you move to the peer-to-peer model, which is something that has been used for ages. And that will be the case with IoT and AI in IoT. I think also it's going to be a lot more edge computing, a lot more edge AI, and the processing will start to be offloaded at the edge simply because you will have to. It's just an untapped resource. If you can move some compute at the edge and make the decisions there, even better. And also in IoT, you are very heavily bandwidth constrained because this is just the nature of the networks. And also you want to save the bandwidth for heavier traffic networks. And IoT kind of wants to limit that. So if you can offload a bunch of compute at the edge and then already pre-process some of the data and make it more compact in order to use less bandwidth, then this will be incredibly valuable. So that's like that should have been more developed by now, in my opinion. I just don't think that companies have put enough effort into it. And
And
it's
you
one
have said
of
the way they
huge.
are doing it is wrong. Why do you say that? The way they are going about it?
uh, that they are late.
Or you mean
Oh,
that?
you mean why do I think this has happened? Uh, uh, it's just about resources, to be honest. It's much easier to sell your idea if you are like big data, big compute, etc. In end of the day, you need to raise funding. But if you are pushing something like a edge computing device, there's just not that interesting to investors. It just comes to practical aspects of raising capital to develop the product. Try raising money for an edge device with AI that's tiny and does a little bit of compute. It's not interesting. But if you do some kind of big AI model that's in the cloud and can serve millions of users and has a nice interface, etc., it's a lot more relatable, and the investors will give you money, right?
Yeah, true.
AI is just like with the IoT, it's not that relatable. Most people don't know what it is, even though there are IoT networks everywhere and they change sensors, data, etc. It's hard to perceive. Whereas with AI, it has reached a stage where it's very relatable. I mean, AI has been there for 50 years, whatever, 100. No one cared about it. Then ChatGPT came out and people actually saw something they can relate to. And that's what started it all. And money started, you know, just growing on trees. So it's kind of going to be the same with AI. Time has just not it will have its chat GPT moment. I think it's just
Yeah.
not there
Have,
yet. Yeah.
have you read the book Internet of Things by Afzal? Because okay, I've read like
Don't
not the
tell
whole
him that because he sent it to me like I was one of the first people he sent it to free, and I promised to review it for him, and I haven't had the time to read more than 20
Can,
pages.
can you share the copy with me? Because I've been looking for it for a while. I read a preview and he said something like IoT struggles to compete with AI because people don't get the application part of IoT. Yes, you've just like gotten the data, you've sent it to the internet. What next? Yeah, but the way you've said that AI was there for a while, then ChatGPT came, people saw it, they used, then the money started coming. I feel like it's the same with IoT. People just IoT currently is not that developed compared to the others because you feel people don't really get the application part of it. They know the technology, how it's working, but the application part of it is not really explored that well yet. So yeah, I
Actually,
agree.
yeah, I would disagree on something that's like IoT in a way is more developed and it's older when you think about it. I mean, think about it like, okay, you have your smartphone and most people have these nowadays, and that's why they can use ChatGPT, etc. But when you think about it, a smartphone is a very complicated device with a lot of processing power, etc. An IoT device is a lot more simple in nature and has existed for a long time. Think about like the first factories, automation in there. There were always sensors, like a simple temperature sensor, whatever. It existed like a long time ago, long before any smartphone was even conceived, let alone created. So it has been there for a long time. It's just people don't think about it in a way because it's not something they can observe as human beings. It's more like specialized data in a way. But I think AI is kind of going to open the door for this in a way. Because, yeah, you as a human, let's say you spend your day and unknowingly you interact with a bunch of IoT devices. They are around you, they are doing their thing, they are measuring, etc., and they are actually affecting your world. You just don't think about it, and also you can't really perceive it in most of the time. But AI can, it can be fed that data, it can process that data, it will be able to make decisions based on that data, and actually, you ask it to solve a problem, it will be able to use that data directly and make a better decision because of it. So it will, in a way, solve the issue, I believe, once it becomes mature enough of how important IoT is and how much more development it should see and how much more investment it should see in order to develop. It's just kind of a inevitable thing to me, to be honest.
So what should happen as we wait for it to mature? So as guys in IoT, what should we be doing, or should we go into the AI to make it better, to better the IoT? So what's your opinion on that? Because you're saying like IoT is not reaching its full potential because AI is not matured. So like, because we are here now, what can you like recommend to happen?
That's a really good question, to be honest. I never thought of it in that context till now. Not quite sure what the answer to that is, to be honest. I would say we need to work on several aspects of IoT in order to make it scalable, because I think that's the biggest issue now. And once we have this solved, then it will go bonkers. In my opinion, there are several things that are still holding it back. One is energy efficiency. There's a company called Onio. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Pardon?
Basically, it's a
It's
it's
called?
a company called Onio.
I've not
Like
heard of it.
onion, like the thing you eat, like
Yeah.
onion without the N. So it's only
Oh,
O.
only.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're
Okay.
working on energy harvesting, and they're basically making IoT devices that are batteryless. Once we have the majority of IoT sensors and being batteryless, meaning like basically self-sufficient, we'll be able to deploy them in a lot larger scale, and their longevity will be a lot bigger. That would mean, and they'll also be cheaper because they won't have any batteries. You'll be surprised in like, look at this is an IoT device from a big company in the US. It's called NCD, and that thing is like basically one of the best vibration monitoring sensors I have ever seen. It measures a ton of stuff. It has FFT. It can do frequency analysis on board. It's basically a bit of AI on it when you think about it. And if you open it up,
That's interesting because I'm currently doing a unit called vibration. So yeah, but continue. Can continue.
yeah, we can talk in detail with you if you want another
No, not
time.
really.
Yeah,
That was just by the way, but you can continue. You've said it
yeah,
measures vibrations, and currently have a unit called vibrations. Yeah, you can continue.
yeah. And my point is, if you look at it, it has this huge battery that gives it more than 10 years battery life. And that battery costs like, I don't know, like almost $100. So it's a very expensive one that is at the same time necessary. And a lot of the total cost of the device is just that battery. And once we start eliminating this, there will be a huge improvement. That's one thing I believe that needs to be worked on. And yeah, perhaps some one of you eventually will work in such a company or on such a device, or maybe even invent something that solves that problem. But we're not quite there yet. We still rely on big batteries and very little energy harvesting for IoT devices. And my personal opinion is that for it to truly scale to billions, hundreds of billions of devices, that will eventually happen and will need to happen for it to reach the next level. We need to do a lot more energy harvesting. So there are different ways, and certainly there are ways to solve it. You can do ultrasound vibration. You can even do RF energy harvesting, temperature, solar, vibration. There are many ways to do it. And the other thing would be network congestion and scaling. That's
Uh,
like,
I have a question on the batteryless. So
yeah.
when you say they are operating batteryless, so like they don't need to store energy because I don't feel like batteries are the problem. It's just that they're not like the best way to go about things because they get depleted in power. So when they are batteryless, is they just like they produce energy and use them at at that time, or they don't need to store energy. Like, is the storing energy a bad thing? Why not make them like energy sufficient? But they can be able to generate their energy and also store it. Why like eliminate the battery at like completely?
Oh, you mean like still have a battery and but also do energy harvesting?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's one way to do it, but let me ask you this. First of all, the battery costs money. So
Yeah.
that means your device will be more expensive. That's never a good thing. The cheaper the device is, the more you can make of it. Second of all, there is that issue with batteries that they they are things that they're basically pollution when you think about it. So you don't really want to have more batteries if you can avoid it. Also size. Battery takes space from a design perspective. The smaller an IoT device is, the better. You want to install those things sometimes in places they're hard to reach or like very small constrained spaces. So that's another consideration. So then there is like actually is like regulation in shipping. You'll be surprised how much more difficult it is to ship a device with a battery than the same device just without the battery. And in the end, when you think about from a business perspective, that's a big issue. And not having it is gonna help a lot. And my opinion is that if you eventually can separate things into IoT devices that can go completely without batteries, because yeah, certain use cases won't be able to even with energy harvesting, and that would be a good thing. We should eventually have a whole category where they just work with completely self-sufficient just harvesting and
Oh, okay.
yeah. And when I say battery, I literally mean battery. Like to me, a supercapacitor to just run the device, that's not really a battery. Like for example, I have a device here from M Climate, and that's like you can see, it's like a e-paper display that just measures temperature, humidity, etc. And it's just a normal IoT device. It has an MCU inside and a bunch of code running on C, and then it has like a radio for the LoRaWAN, etc. It doesn't have like a battery, like a conventional lithium battery or anything, but it has a small supercapacitor to just store the energy from this organic solar panel that actually works indoors.
Oh, cool.
And that solves the problem in a nice way. To me, that's also a close to a battery-less IoT device that can work indoors, for example.
Oh,
So
oh,
that's what I mean as far as, but this, for example, is not applicable to this vibration sensor because this is a use case where you need a lot of energy to measure the vibration. There's a lot of calculation. The data packet is very large because there is a lot of data. And realistically, from what I know about science, that will not be solved to be batteryless in my lifetime, probably. So I don't even think about it. Maybe in the
okay.
future, in a way that I don't even know exists, but yeah, just
Okay, okay. You've answered my question. Yeah, you can continue. You're saying something before I interrupted you. I don't know if you can.
uh I don't know, to be honest.
Oh,
The
we were
discussion
talking
went a
about
different way. So,
we were talking about how we can make what we can do right now before like AI and IoT matures, and you're saying the first is being energy efficient, and you're moving to your second point before I interrupted you.
oh yeah, the scaling of the network. That's the other big issue. Right now, there's like a divide. There are several IoT technologies for communication, right? You have LoRaWAN, Wi-Fi Halo, you have like NB-IoT, and the cellular things, and some other ones are trying to push their way in, etc. But as far as network scaling goes, none of them have completely solved it in a way. They have issues. Once you go past a couple of thousand of devices, things start to become difficult. And there's issues with interference and collisions and missed packets, and the protocols become inefficient, etc. And to put it simply, in my opinion, most of what we have learned and worked in as far as wireless communication networks and protocols for this in the past for tens of years, basically my entire lifetime, has been centered around networks that are designed for humans. It's like client server. You as a human are the client and you request some data from the server. Like that's basically what you do with your phone. And then you get your data. And the trend has been increase the capacity of the network, so more bandwidth, more data, and how we can achieve that. IoT is the opposite. How can you spend the least amount of time with the least amount of bandwidth with a greater number of devices? And we simply haven't worked on those long enough, or I should say, like as long as we've worked on the traditional networks. And there are still issues that need to be solved, but I think they will be solved in a bit of a different way because I see that up till now we are using the same principles we use in traditional networks, in the IoT networks, but they're not the same type of network. So we would have to think about other things, to be honest. I think they're gonna go more towards the software-defined radio and flexible spectrum allocation, which is not something that's used that much into traditional networks because it's kind of regulated. And I think also AI will be a big enabler there and a big part, and it will be used to solve that problem. I don't know if are you familiar with it? Probably you are, because NVIDIA has been very popular lately because of AI. Everybody knows about it, right? And there's, like, for example, the newest generation of graphics cards basically uses AI heavily, and instead of rendering the frames, it kind of uses AI to kind of guess the frames. You're familiar with that, I'm hoping, right?
Okay.
Maybe
I
not.
just know like NVIDIA releasing the new GPUs, but not that deeply about
Well,
generating
think
things.
of well, yeah, in a way that, let's say you have like 120 frames per second with the newest GPU. Not all of those frames are rendered. Let's say like 80 of those are just AI generated. To put it simply, kind of guesses based on data what the next frame will be and outputs it instead of actually creating it in a way. So they're like, you could think of them as fake. So now think about applying this to a huge network of billions of IoT devices in a way that AI helps you to determine, okay, based on looking at the network in real time with this huge smart AI that can process all that data and look at it, what would be the frequency, channel modulation, etc., that I should use with my IoT device to send my data in the next 10 microseconds and that has the greatest likelihood of not interfering with anything. And you choose it dynamically and you just send it instead of using something predefined that will probably collide with another packet that is using the same thing because it's predefined.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think it will be like that eventually, like use AI to dynamically adjust your network in real time in order to find a way to send your data on whatever technology you can use at that time.
Okay. As while you are talking about the networking, do you think it's a concern that like basically IoT is networking and the networks themselves can't handle like the newer technologies, the amounts of data? Yeah. So is it a concern because it like this is like saying like a phone that cannot handle calls So like, what do you think about that? It is,
Yeah, I mean, to me, okay, I'm a network engineer, so to say, by trade. So for me, that's the biggest problem, maybe because this is what I know and I don't see the other things. So maybe they are just as important. But for me, that's the biggest issue because when you think about it, you only have a limited amount of radio spectrum, and that is shared by every single wireless network, not just IoT, but TV, phone, whatever. So anything you want to transmit goes in the same medium. That means potentially it can interfere with anything else. It's like a bunch of fish swimming in the same sea. And if you have too much of them, in the end, all of them won't be able to swim anywhere. They'll be locked in place, if I can make that analogy. So, and it's not like you can go to another sea because what physics teaches us, you have a limited bandwidth basically. And the higher in frequency you go, the harder it becomes to transmit on a good enough range. So your range decreases as your frequency and bandwidth increases. And once you reach like 60 gigahertz, absorption in the molecules of air and water is so high that it's unrealistic to have anything that resembles a good range, which is very important for an IoT network. And because of this constraint, we would have to find a better time management, which because with networks you have basically, that has been the case for a long time, you have several aspects. You can either divide it in time or in frequency, let's say. And if we kind of fill up the frequency, we have to start utilizing the time. And like I said, it's just dynamic adjustment to those things in real time that will allow us to have the necessary capacity to scale those IoT networks and not have them interfere with each other or other types of networks. But to me, that would be a huge problem because think of it like that. AI exploded, right? They solved the issue by dumping a bunch of money, buying a bunch of GPUs from NVIDIA and building huge data centers. And that's how they were able to keep up with the of demand, right? Make bigger centers, etc.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's kind of the same with IoT. Let's say IoT explodes and there's like 1 trillion IoT devices that are deployed. They're going to interfere so much with each other, right? How are we going to solve this? We can't build bigger networks. It's not going to solve it the same way it solves it with the data centers. It's going to make it even more difficult if we add more. So which way are we going to go? You know, it's like, how are we going to solve that? It's just a different problem. You can't solve the problem by putting more of the same like you do with AI and data centers. Your AI is not powerful enough. Too many people want to use it. What do you want to do? Well, you put more of it. You make the data center bigger. With AI, with IoT, is like your people want to use IoT more. How do you solve it? You put more IoT devices out there. Yeah, but then they kind of get in each other's way even more. Exactly the opposite problem, right? So you
yeah.
can't solve it with the same solution as you solve it with AI, which is basically making more of the same. So you would have to find another way. And I don't know what that would be, to be honest. Yeah.
I guess that's why people are here to listen to you and try to figure out a solution to that. So, to the guys in the call, that's the biggest challenge facing IoT right now because scaling
Oh, it's
brings.
just what I think. It could be something else, to be honest. It's just what I think
Oh
about
yeah,
because
yeah,
of
yeah,
my limited knowledge and understanding. But yeah, it's just something that's
yeah.
bothering me.
But
Maybe someone else
that's.
has it solved.
But I guess that needs like maybe a change in technology. The way like in the CPU like industry, when they reach like the maximum like smallest size of the transistor, so the more slow like became like not really working, and that's why you see Microsoft came up with the Mahorana, there's the quantum computers. You see, like they're shifting technologies. So do you think like IoT needs to shift technology?
That time will come. It's like there's a very good saying is what was it? I'm trying to put it in English because I actually heard it for the first time in Bulgarian, but it's like if you have enough quantity of if the you change the quantity so it grows in quantity in some way, and it inevitably reaches a point where the quality has to change as well. So in a way, once you reach the limit in a certain technology and the way it scales, you simply have to make a paradigm shift and you just go on a completely different new way. And that's inevitable with everything. It has happened before, it will happen again. What I'm saying is, I don't know how they're gonna go about this, and that's what bothers me and keeps me awake at night, and it's what's interesting to me. And yeah, that's kind of what's fun, I guess. But it would be very interesting. And yeah, I kind of don't know
Okay.
if I would live to see
Personally,
it.
I feel
But
yeah. I feel the issue is people are focusing on like both sides of the scope, like the start and the end, but people are not looking at the middle where things, the transmission and etc. So people are focusing on at the start where the machine or the sensors are sending data, and at the application part where it's being ingested and being used. But people
yeah,
are not
yeah.
really thinking about the middle point. So yeah, so the
Yeah,
technologies are
you
still
said it
like
in a very nice way. I couldn't put it better myself. Is what that's just because they know it's what they see. They see the device and the measurement, and they see the application as the user. But everything in the middle, they're not thinking about it, and there's a lot of problems there to be solved in order for the ends to work, right? Well said, very well said.
yeah, yeah. Any person, any other question? Because we are 9 minutes past time.
I'm sorry about ranting so much, to be honest. Maybe I should have let you ask questions.
It's okay. It's
Uh,
okay. Even but okay, the session was supposed to be about your journey, but it became interesting that we focused on the IoT part rather than the U part. So as we like maybe wrap up, can you like tell us like your journey? Because you've said you've worked in big companies, small companies, academia. So maybe you said you did PhD and it didn't work out. Okay, can you like tell us from there until like now what happens? There was at a moment Denitsa had raised her hand. I don't know if she wanted to say something, or I don't know. Maybe she can say something too. Yeah. So yeah.
Well,
well,
hi everyone. I had a request, but I understand that we are past the time. Vladislav was talking about what it is like to work in different companies, and I was prompting him to tell you about his own company and the experience of his own with finding qualified employees, but maybe another time.
yeah, let me just try to
Yeah, you can share about
briefly.
that too in his journey.
Yeah, let me just try to say something that might be
Okay.
important in that regard. Is like what I learned by having my own company, and it kind of failed, and I made some mistakes and kind of lost it in the process, etc. But anyway, that's just not not the important thing. The important thing is not whether I succeed or not. The important thing is that in order to a company to work, because it's basically just a bunch of people with relationships between them. It's not about having the best people in a way, it's about having the right people that have the same goals and ideas. Forget how technically capable they are in a way. It's about their mindset, and is also the right people at the right time in a way that me from today, if I was able to go back, maybe my company wouldn't failed in the way that I failed because I'm a different person now and learn different things. So just try to be a bit more open-minded and try to kind of make things work, not necessarily in the best way, but in a way that kind of works good enough. I am like a perfectionist in nature, and that kind of serves me not really in a good way. So yeah, try to make compromises when you can and focus on the big picture. That's how a company is successful, and you as an individual should be successful. Try to have a broader view and think long term and kind of see the bigger picture, not necessarily. Yeah, of course, we all get up in the morning and we have our tasks for the day, and we look at the day in a way, was I able to complete this, solve the problems, deal with what came my way, and then we determine whether our day was successful or not. But in the end, try to also look at the big picture and see if you're moving the needle the right way as far as the big picture goes. Then if you have failed days, that doesn't matter that much, just, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
What was the company about? What was the company doing?
I actually started in IoT. It was about agri-tech in the beginning. We were designing an IoT node to just do simple, but it was like a long time ago, so there weren't any good ones at that time. Measure some parameters about soil and crops and automate field monitoring, etc. Then it became more of like a consultancy, and we worked with one of the big IoT manufacturers, etc. And then a bunch of other things happened, and yeah, it's like it started as one thing and then it became another. It's just the nature of startups, I guess. You pivot to whatever is available. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great that Denitsa brought that up too, because we also have a startups. Basically, it's a few friends from my class, so we decided like we have learned a few things. Maybe we can try start building product and yeah. So, but for us, it's not about like about making money. It's just we saw that we had we were struggling like getting like opportunities as individuals. Then we thought like, what if we become a group and become a company? Maybe that's way people listen to us. So yeah, that's our story. And currently it's still there, good technologies, and but we are still
I would
students.
Actually, I would love to talk about that at length, maybe in another session or something.
Yeah. We can set up another session.
But it's
Yeah.
a very interesting topic, and it's not one I have solved in a way. I still don't know how to do it,
Yeah,
but
but we
maybe
can
you
set
should.
up another session and talk about that. Yeah, but that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and I believe someone will learn something from it. Yeah. Uh,
Well, 95% of companies fail in the first 5 years, so there is a good reason for that. It's
yeah,
not easy.
yeah, it's not easy. Yeah,
And also, as one of my bosses used to say, hardware is hard, and what you're basically trying to do is hardware, and that's hard. It's a lot easier to do a software as a service company and just making hardware, embedded devices, etc. That's really hard, So yeah, take that
true,
into account.
true. Yeah, you were to give us your journey, like basically your work experience as we wrap up.
You mean like summarize what I have?
Okay, like okay, you had told us about your education background, like in telecommunications, doing your bachelor's, your master's, and quitting your PhD. Then, like, what happens in between then and now?
Oh, okay. So yeah, in short,
Yeah, just a summary.
yeah, I did a bunch of electronics as a kid. I got interested into it. Then I studied that in high school and university. Then I did a bunch of masters, then the PhD, and then uh kind of was thinking of what I should do next, and I thought I would do another PhD in IoT. I applied, and they did not take me. They took someone else because, yeah, there were a lot of applicants. Then I was thinking of what should I do, and then I decided, okay, I'll do it on my own. I start my own company. Then I played with the agri thing I told you about, and then I kind of got involved with one of the big water one manufacturers just by chance because I bought some equipment from them that I needed, and they liked what feedback I told them. Then I worked for that company for a bunch of time and learned some things about myself, about company culture, about the technology. I got fired then, and I worked as a consultant for some time on basically project uh, on project basis. Where one company was building automations for wall offices in the US, so basically occupancy. Another one was doing automation for factories. And then I got approached from a big smart building company which I still work to this day. And yeah, that's what I'm working on. There I do mostly kind of like a mixture between technical support, test engineer, and solution architect, or so I would like to think about myself. And just in the end, I just try to be involved with IoT, learn as much as I can, and help as many people as I can. It's just-
That's a pretty interesting journey. You like to say that okay, not like to say. You usually say that you don't really count yourself as successful, but
Oh,
that's a pretty good journey. Most people like will like something like that because you have your papers, you have experience, you have a
well,
family.
to be
I think
honest,
you're done in
I've
life.
been, yeah, it's like I'm not complaining. It's just most of the time, so either I get fired or the company goes bankrupt. So that's why I'm saying that maybe just normal. I don't know. It's just I wish it was a bit different. But then again, what is to be successful? It's every next day is just you solving a bunch of problems. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. What else are you supposed to do, right? You're here as a human being, to solve problems other people can't solve themselves. That's what being useful and being part of society and a company and a team means. So that's fine, I suppose. Some problems you solve, some problems you don't, and then you move on to something else. So yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, and yeah, that's really profound in a way. Yeah, so I guess we can wrap it up here because we are 20 minutes past time. So I'd like to. Okay, let me first ask if anyone has any questions before we close the session. I see only 10 of us. Others have already left. Any
Yeah.
questions? Evans, Joseph. There are two Josephs, so there are two Georges too. I've seen there's a thumbs up. I guess that means no question. If there's no question, then I'd like to thank Vladislav for joining us today. I know he has a lot to do, but he decided to create time to be with us, and we appreciate that a lot. Personally, I've learned a lot. This session has changed the way I look at things, and yeah, and it's been nice having you, and hopefully it will be the first of many, and hopefully we can also work together on some things. I also like the copy of the book you haven't read. Yeah, so I can read it on your behalf.
It's a physical copy. I would
A
have
physical
to.
copy. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, there aren't that many pages. Maybe I can scan it or anything like that. I don't know.
Okay, if it's possible to scan, that would be nice because the book I've really wanted to read. But if it's not possible, then I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to wait for another chance to get my copy. So yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah. So I guess that's it. You see, it was not that hard. And okay. I usually don't know how to close things. You can just talk and talk and talk. But what I'm trying to say is thank you for coming, and it's been a great session. And hopefully we can hear from you again and maybe work on something. Yeah. And
Sure. Yeah, it was interesting for me, I suppose. What I want to finish with saying is that I might not necessarily have given you answers to questions you had, but I hope at least I kind of sparked some questions you don't have answers to that you can think about. Maybe that would be enough. So yeah, hopefully
yeah,
I gave you some food for thought.
yeah. You shared a lot of wisdom with us. Personally, okay, me speaking from a personal level, it has changed the way I look at things. And from here, I know where I can focus on, where I can be aware, things I can be aware of in the industry, challenges I can look, I can expect. So yeah, we have learned a lot, and yeah, thank you for being with us here. Yeah, so for the other participants, other attendees, okay, this session we had it on Tuesday, but normally our sessions are on Monday. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, Monday, 8 to 9 East African time. I don't know what time it's there where Vladislav is, but yeah, so next week on Monday, same time, same place, but a different link. Yeah, so I'd like to wish you a great week and see you next week. Yeah, we can close it there. Let me stop the recording. And thanks, Denitsa, for joining too.
You all the best, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye. Okay. Yeah. So we can wrap it.